Ndala was a small village hidden deep in the heart of the African countryside. The huts were made of red mud and thatched roofs, and wide stretches of farmland surrounded the village on every side. Chickens ran freely across dusty paths, and children played under the tall baobab trees. Life in Ndala was slow but full of rhythm. People rose with the sun, worked hard, and slept peacefully beneath the stars. The village believed in strong traditions, deep respect for elders, and unity among neighbors. Among the many families in Ndala, one girl stood out. Not because of riches or power, but because of her quiet strength. Her name was Ao. She was 17 years old, with bright eyes that still held hope, even after all she had endured. Ao had lost her mother at a young age. Her father, desperate to provide for the family, had left to find work in a distant town. In his absence, he had remarried a woman named Mama Titi, and that changed everything. Mama Titi was a woman of greed and sharp words. She had a daughter named Lami, who was spoiled and lazy. From the moment Ao's father left, Mama Titi treated Ao like a servant. While Lami rested in the shade and painted her nails with crushed berries, Ao did all the work. She fetched heavy pots of water from the river, cooked meals over the fire, cleaned the compound, and worked the fields under the hot sun. Ao's hands were rough from work, her feet sore from walking barefoot, but her spirit never broke. When she lay down at night on her mat, she would close her eyes and imagine a better life. A life where she could go to school, eat a full meal, and smile without fear. But the reality was different. Cruelty followed her like a shadow, and poverty wrapped around her like a second skin. Still, she never lost hope. She would whisper to herself, "One day, I will be free." She believed that even in a place like Ndala, forgotten by the world, something beautiful could still happen. And though she didn't know it yet, her story was only just beginning. One hot afternoon, as the villagers of Ndala went about their daily chores, a strange silence fell over the main path. A line of horses and decorated carriages entered the village. At the front of the group rode a tall, elderly man dressed in flowing robes and gold jewelry that shimmered in the sun. His name was Chief Mako. Chief Mako was known across many villages as a powerful and wealthy man. He was over 60 years old, with a long gray beard and eyes that rarely blinked. No one knew where exactly he came from, but everyone had heard stories. Some said he had magical powers. Others believed he owned lands as far as the mountains. He didn't speak much, but when he did, people listened. Mama Titi's eyes lit up the moment she saw him. She rushed to welcome him with flattery and gifts. That night, as Ao cleaned the cooking pots outside, she overheard Mama Titi whispering to one of the chief's guards. The words made her heart stop. "She is young, strong, and very obedient," Mama Titi said. "Ao will make a perfect wife for the chief. In fact, she prefers older men. She told me so herself." Ao dropped the pot she was holding. She ran inside, her eyes wide with fear. "Mama, no! I don't want to marry him," she cried. "He's older than my father. Please don't do this to me." But Mama Titi's face turned cold. "You ungrateful girl. After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? Do you want to sleep on the streets? Do you want to be cursed by the gods? You will marry Chief Mako, and that is final." Ao fell to her knees, sobbing. Lami watched from the corner, smirking. News of the arrangement spread quickly through the village. Some elders whispered that it was wrong. Others simply shook their heads. But no one dared to challenge Chief Mako. He was too powerful, and his guards carried long spears that glowed in the moonlight. The wedding was set for 3 days later. Ao sat under the baobab tree, watching the stars, her heart breaking. She knew there was no escape. She had no money, no family to save her. And yet, even in her pain, she made a decision. "I will walk into this marriage with my head high," she whispered. "They will not steal my dignity." The wedding day arrived with loud drums, colorful fabrics, and singing that echoed through the village. Women painted their faces with white chalk, children ran barefoot, and elders gathered near the center of the square to witness the grand ceremony. Chief Mako had spared no expense. Huge bowls of food lined the tables, goats were slaughtered for the feast, and dancers performed in circles until the dust rose like smoke. But while the village celebrated, Ao sat silently on a stool near the main hut, dressed in fine cloth she did not choose, with golden beads around her neck that felt like chains. Her eyes were red from crying through the night. She forced a smile when someone looked her way, but her heart felt heavy like a stone. Lami pranced around the fire with joy, clapping her hands and shaking her waist as if she were the bride. "Smile, sister," she teased loudly. "You're marrying a rich man. What more could a poor girl want?" Villagers laughed nervously, not knowing what to say. Chief Mako stood tall, proud and calm. His long staff tapped the ground as he approached Ao. "You are mine now," he said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Ao looked down, too numb to reply. Far away, in a neighboring town, Ao's father received word of the wedding. His hands trembled as he wrote a message begging for the ceremony to be delayed. But the messenger arrived too late. The drums had already fallen silent. The bride price had been paid. Ao was already married. As the sun set, the chief's guards arrived with a decorated horse-drawn cart. Ao was gently pushed inside, her arms full of farewell gifts she hadn't asked for. The ride to Chief Mako's compound felt like a dream, dark and distant. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She simply watched the trees pass by, wondering what her life would become. When they reached the compound, it was nothing like she imagined. Tall walls blocked the view of the outside world. No one greeted her. No music played. A heavy silence filled the air. Ao stepped down from the cart. The gate closed behind her with a loud thud. She stood alone in the courtyard, her shadow long under the moonlight. Everything was quiet. Everything was strange. The compound was silent as a guard led Ao down a long, narrow hallway. The walls were lined with ancient African carvings, faces with wide eyes, animals with twisted bodies, and symbols that pulsed in the candlelight. She had never seen anything like it. It felt more like a shrine than a home. The guard stopped before a massive wooden door. He knocked twice, then stepped aside. The door creaked open, and there stood Chief Mako, dressed in a deep red robe, his face calm but unreadable. "Come in, wife," he said softly. Ao stepped inside. The room was enormous, lit only by candles placed in clay bowls along the walls. The carvings were everywhere, in the wood, on the floor, even on the ceiling. There was no bed, no chair, only a mat in the center of the room. Chief Mako motioned for her to sit. She obeyed. He walked around her slowly, then stopped in front of the mat. "Before we begin our life together," he said, "I must test your loyalty." Ao looked up, confused. "What do you mean, my lord?" "There is a room beyond this one," he said, pointing to a curtain hanging at the back wall. "You must sleep there tonight. Alone. Do not open anything. Do not touch what does not belong to you. If you obey, you will prove yourself worthy to be my wife." Her hands trembled. "But why, sir?" He did not answer. He simply turned and left, the large door closing behind him with a deep, final sound. Ao walked toward the curtain. Her heart pounded. She pulled it aside and found a smaller wooden door behind it. Slowly, she stepped through and entered a second room, this one colder and darker than the first. There was a mat on the floor, a jug of water, and a small clay lamp. Ao sat quietly, trying to calm her mind, but as the wind howled outside and the lamp flickered, her eyes caught something strange. One corner of the room had a large cloth draped over the wall. It moved slightly in the breeze. She stood up and approached it. Her fingers touched the edge. She whispered to herself, "Just a peek. Just one." She pulled back the cloth. Behind it was a hidden door, carved with the same strange symbols. She hesitated, then opened it slowly. What she saw inside would change everything. The hidden door creaked open slowly, and Ao stepped inside, her breath shallow. The room beyond was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was lit with a strange blue glow, as if the walls themselves were alive. At the center of the room stood a circle of carved stones, and inside that circle were objects. Unmoving at first, but as Ao stepped closer, they began to stir. A drum lifted itself off the ground and began to beat, slow and steady, with no hands touching it. Another drum joined in, creating a rhythm that filled the room with power. Ao gasped, stepping back, but the sound pulled her forward. Then she saw it. An old mirror framed with golden wood, leaning against the far wall. She approached it carefully. The mirror's surface shimmered, and then suddenly it changed. A woman appeared in the glass. Gentle eyes, warm smile, and a face Ao knew by heart. "Mama," she whispered, her voice shaking. The woman in the mirror nodded. "My sweet Ao." The voice echoed from the glass. "You must listen." Tears streamed down Ao's cheeks. She reached out, but her hand passed through air. "Chief Mako is not what he seems," the voice continued. "He is cursed. Long ago, he made a dark pact to gain power and wealth. In return, he was doomed to never grow old in spirit. But to do so, he must take the light from others. That is why he collects wives." Ao stumbled backward. He takes their life? "Yes," the mirror said. "And tonight, he plans to take yours. But you are not like the others. You were born with the blood of the guardians. I was one before you. That scroll," the mirror pointed toward a small stone table, "holds your name. Touch it, and your true strength will awaken." Ao turned slowly. On the table lay a long, ancient scroll, sealed with a symbol she had seen carved into the chief's walls. Her hands trembled as she reached out and broke the seal. The moment her fingers touched the parchment, a shock of energy rushed through her body. Her skin began to glow with golden light. Her eyes lit up like fire, and the drums grew louder. Visions flashed in her mind. Her mother standing beside a great tree, casting light over the land, and Ao as a child, surrounded by glowing spirits. She fell to her knees, breathing hard. She understood now. She was not weak. She was the chosen one. Chief Mako had chosen the wrong girl, and before the night ended, he would know it. Midnight fell over the compound like a blanket of shadows. The air was thick and still. Outside the hidden room, the rest of the world seemed to sleep. But inside, the walls hummed with unseen energy, the drums still beating faintly in the background, like a warning no one else could hear. Ao stood tall in the center of the glowing chamber, the golden light still pulsing from her hands. Her breathing was steady now. She had no fear. The scroll lay open behind her, its ancient writing glowing with magic. She was ready. The heavy door creaked open. Chief Mako entered slowly, his face calm and expectant. He held a carved staff, the top shaped like a serpent. His eyes, dark and gleaming, scanned the room. He did not see a scared bride. He saw a glowing force standing where he had left a trembling girl. "So," he said, voice deep and smooth, "you disobeyed." Ao said nothing. "You were told not to open anything," he continued, stepping forward. "Curiosity is dangerous, little wife." Ao lifted her chin. "You prey on the weak," she said firmly. "But tonight the weak rise." Chief Mako froze. Then he laughed. It was a loud, cold laugh that echoed off the carved walls. "You think you can stop me? I've lived 100 lives. I've drained the power of many brides before you." He raised his staff. Ao raised her hand. She began to chant the words from the scroll, her voice strong and clear. The language was old, but the power was alive in every syllable. As she spoke, the air cracked. The candles flickered wildly. The carvings on the walls seemed to twist and turn. Chief Mako's smile faded. Lightning burst through the ceiling, striking the ground between them. He stumbled back, dropping his staff. His body shook violently. His skin darkened, and his bones cracked loudly as he began to transform. His fingers stretched into claws. His back arched and grew hunched. His face twisted into a beast's snout, teeth sharp and long. Hair spread across his body like wildfire. He screamed, part man, part animal, his voice a mixture of rage and pain. "You were warned," he howled. Ao stepped forward, her eyes glowing gold. She extended both hands, and golden threads of light shot from her palms, wrapping around Chief Mako's body like ropes of fire. He roared, trying to break free, but the light tightened. "You cannot escape what you've become," Ao said. "The curse ends now." With one final scream, Chief Mako vanished into a burst of smoke and shadow. The drum stopped. The room fell silent. Ao stood alone, the scroll now dark, the power fading gently from her hands. It was over. As the first light of dawn touched the sky, Ao walked back into Ndala village. Her clothes were torn, her feet dusty, but her face glowed with quiet strength. The sun rose behind her, casting golden rays that made her look almost like a spirit herself. The villagers were already gathering near the market square when they saw her. Gasps filled the air. Mothers pulled their children closer. Elders whispered among themselves. Some dropped their baskets in shock. "Ao," someone said. "Is that really her?" She nodded once, then stepped forward without fear. Her voice rang clear. "Chief Mako is gone. He was cursed. I saw his true form. He will not return." The crowd murmured in disbelief. Mama Titi pushed through the people, her mouth already forming fake tears. "My child, I was so worried. What did that wicked man do to you?" She reached out to hug Ao, but Ao stepped back. "Don't pretend," she said coldly. "You sold me like an animal, and now your lies are finished." Mama Titi swayed, then dropped to the ground in a faint. Lami tried to laugh. "She's confused. Maybe the sun made her dizzy. Ao always makes up stories." But Ao turned to the elders and unwrapped the scroll. The ancient symbols glowed faintly in the morning light. Then she held up the mirror. The surface shimmered, and a woman's face appeared. Ao's real mother. Gasps filled the air again. The spirit spoke in a calm, powerful voice. "This child is the daughter of guardians. She has broken the curse. She carries light. From this day on, she will protect this village." The elders dropped to their knees. "We are honored," one said. "Forgive us for not seeing your pain." As Ao stood there, calm and proud, a loud crack echoed from the distance. All heads turned toward the horizon. The compound that once belonged to Chief Mako crumbled before their eyes. Walls broke apart, towers sank into the ground, and within minutes, nothing remained but smoke. It was as if the place had never existed. The villagers stood in silence. Ao looked up at the sky. The sun was warm on her face. She had returned not as a victim, but as a protector, and Ndala would never be the same again. The morning after Ao's return, the village square was filled with tension. The elders had called for a special meeting under the great baobab tree. Every man, woman, and child gathered to witness what would come next. Mama Titi and Lami stood in the center, surrounded by silence. Their eyes were wide with fear, but no one came to defend them. An elder stepped forward and raised his staff. "You sold a child to a cursed man for selfish gain," he said. "You lied, you deceived, and you nearly brought ruin upon us all." The people nodded in agreement. Even the children stayed quiet. "By the power of the ancestors," the elder continued, "you are both banished from Dala. You will leave before the sun reaches the top of the sky. You may never return." Mama Titi dropped to her knees, begging, "Please, mercy. I only wanted a better life." But the elders did not bend. Lami wept, but her tears were too late. The villagers turned their backs as the two were led away. Their shouts faded into the distance. Later that day, a man arrived at the village gates, walking with tired feet and a heavy heart. It was Ao's father. The moment he saw his daughter, he fell to his knees. "My child," he whispered, tears running down his cheeks. "I failed you. I should never have left you with that woman. I should have protected you. Please forgive me." Ao looked at him for a long moment. Then she knelt beside him and touched his hand. "I forgive you, Papa," she said gently. "But I am not the same girl you left. I can't go back to serving others. My life now belongs to those who cannot protect themselves." The elders gathered once again that evening. One of them stood and raised his voice. "For her courage, her wisdom, and her strength, we appoint Ao as a member of the village council. She is the youngest to ever hold this honor. May her light guide us forward." Cheers erupted across the village. Drums began to play, and women danced in joy. That night, children sat around fires, singing new songs, songs of Ao, the brave girl who defeated the cursed chief. Songs of the girl who glowed like gold and brought peace back to Ndala. Ao sat beneath the stars, watching the flames flicker, her heart full of quiet pride. She had not just survived. She had changed everything. Months passed, and Ndala began to change. The village that once whispered in fear now buzzed with hope and pride. In the center of it all stood Ao, no longer the poor, mistreated girl from before. She was now a protector, a council member, and a symbol of strength. But Ao did not stop there. With the blessing of the elders, she opened a small school near the edge of the village, beneath the shade of 3 great trees. The walls were made of clay, and the roof of palm leaves, but inside, it was full of light. Girls from Dala and nearby villages came to learn, not only to read and write, but to grow in wisdom, courage, and strength. Ao taught them what her mother had once known. She shared the power of the ancestors, how to protect the innocent, and how to believe in themselves even when the world tried to silence them. The mirror and scroll stayed safely hidden in the school, and sometimes, when the wind was just right, the mirror would shimmer and whisper encouragement to the girls. One afternoon, as Ao swept the floor after lessons, a traveler entered the compound. He wore a simple robe and carried a satchel over his shoulder. His eyes were kind, and his smile was familiar. "Ao," he said softly. She looked up and gasped. It was Obi, the quiet boy who had once helped her carry water, who had given her food when Mama Titi starved her, who had disappeared before the wedding. "I heard stories," he said, "but none of them do you justice." Ao laughed and hugged him, something she hadn't done in a long time. "You believed in me when no one else did." Obi stayed in Dala, helping build more classrooms and planting gardens for the students. Over time, their friendship deepened. They walked together under the moonlight, shared stories by the fire, and sat side by side while the children played. And one day, when the sky was painted gold and the drums played gently in the distance, Obi asked, "Would you walk beside me? Not as a guardian or legend, but as my partner?" Ao smiled. She was no longer afraid of marriage. They didn't have a grand ceremony, only a circle of friends, the girls from her school, and the blessings of the ancestors. As the sun rose that morning, Ao stood outside her school, laughing freely, her heart light. She was no longer a poor girl begging for kindness. She was a legend, born from pain, shaped by courage, and carried forward by love. and the world would never forget her name.